A discharge is a debt that is put off into the future to be paid at some future time. And a set-off is something that's done right now. Now, the best example we have of that in our culture is in the New Testament, in the missions, and the thing that was done by John the Baptist and the thing that was done by Jesus of Nazareth. And they did two separate things. Now, as you recall, in history in the Old Testament, the people was out there sinning all the time, got God mad, and so, but anyway, the remedy that was provided for the sins or the debts of those people was called discharge, and it was under the law, under the Levitical law. And that was handled by what was called the Levitical priesthood. Now, the Levitical priesthood did not have an oath. They were not bonded. And so, as you recall, they had certain ceremonies, and they would shed the blood of animals and spill the blood on the ground and do this, that, and the other. And by that, they would put off the consequence of the sin until some future event. Okay? And every once in a while, they get a heat and call them Azazel and put all the sins of Israel and send it off into the wilderness. Y'all know that story. But that was what the purpose of it was so that God would not have to destroy them at that juncture. Now, if you recall back in the Garden of Eden, there was Adam and Eve put in there, and God gave them certain instructions or commandments of how He wanted them to do and act. And it was a double bind, because they couldn't do the one unless they did the other. See, and so God knew that. But anyway, He told them, He gave them a specific commandment of what He wanted done, and He says, if you disobey this or if you break this commandment, He said, I will surely destroy you in the day you do that thing. Now, they went ahead and did it anyway. But God did not destroy them. He provided a scapegoat, an Azazel. He provided a discharge situation so that they would not be destroyed at that exact moment. Because the real purpose for Adam and Eve and for mankind was to learn. And you can't learn if you get whacked on the head just for doing something. And so he put off the consequence of the sin of Adam and Eve into the future. Now, in order to do that, He had to take them out of the venue of the Garden of Eden and put them into another venue. So He took them out of the Garden of Eden, which was considered to be paradise, and put them into the lone and dreary world. Now, when they were in the garden, they were operating basically on what you call common law. But when He put them out in the lone and dreary world, He put them out into admiralty jurisdiction. Because when they were taken out of the Garden of Eden, they were put into bankruptcy. They were put into a reorganization bankruptcy. So they would have a chance to deal with the debt until a future time. And so He had to change their physical location, and He had to change the system of law that they were expected to operate under. So then this is exactly what we've seen with the system of bankruptcy and discharge that we operate under. Common law demands execution of the law. There is no discharge in common law. There's nothing put off into the future. Common law is exacting, and it has no mercy attached to it. There is no mercy in common law. So if in the Garden of Eden situation, if God had not changed the jurisdiction from common law to admiralty, Adam and Eve would have been destroyed on the spot, and you and I wouldn't be here. That's what it amounts to. And so when you start to clamor for common law, be very careful what you clamor for, because the common law has no mercy attached to it, none at all. In consequence of that, it does not consider grace. There's no grace associated with it. You have to get into admiralty law to get involved in grace and mercy. And so when you start talking about the system of commerce that we're using, start thinking about those things, because it has real application. Now, if you go back, like I mentioned, and start a timeline, from Adam, and you go forward all the way over here to John, the man they call John the Baptist, you have this discharge going on. And that was the sin or the debt. And by the way, sin and debt's the same word. Anybody here not understand that? It's all the same word. It is sin is in theology and debt's in commerce, but it's the same concept. And so you can, so during this period here, the way that people dealt with their sin/debt was to put off the consequence to the future. to some future event when there would be payment made. And so this went on for about 4,000 years, and then all of a sudden there was a radical change. The scriptures are very explicit that the law was until John. The law was until John. And at that point something happened. And what happened? Well, they shed John's blood. As the scripture says that without the blood of the testator, the testament is not in effect. And so they had to shed John's blood as the last legal administrator of the law, which they did. But that gave opportunity for something else. So over here we have the Old Covenant, or the Old Testament. Or what, I mean, to them it was new. I mean, the only thing they had. But in relationship to the New Covenant, which was coming, this is the Old Covenant. And so John shed his blood, and that put the Old Testament into effect, demonstrating that it was a will. It was not a trust. And the Old Covenant is not a trust situation. It was a will, because it had to be probated, because it took the death of the testator to put the thing into effect. So this is a will. It's not a trust situation. All right, so there was a small adjustment period. And how long that was exactly, I don't know. Maybe 6 months, maybe longer, I don't know. But there was a period of time there that was basically a black hole. You're technically in a time warp, because nothing happened there. And then you had another fellow over here, the one they called Jesus of Nazareth, and they took and shed his blood too. Now, in the Old Testament, they didn't shed the blood of the testator until the end of it. But now with the new covenant, the new contract, they did it at the start. Now, what does that demonstrate about the new covenant? It's a prepayment. It's prepaid. All right? And so if it's prepaid, it goes in this direction here. So we're going to talk about prepayment. Now, all of a sudden, you have the elements of grace and mercy and some of those things introduced into it. Grace and mercy didn't exist over here. Well, they did, because they could go and go to the city of refuge and grasp the horns of the altar and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, for the most part, we're talking about two complete separate concepts right here. So over on this side right here now, we're starting to talk about grace and mercy, which still exist in the common law. Now, because the thing is prepaid, so any debt or any sin, and I shouldn't say any, because there are conditions involved in it, but let's say some sins and some debts in this system over here are accessible through the prepayment. And all you have to do is look up. You remember when the Israelites were in the wilderness, they got bitten by all the serpents and all that kind of stuff, and Moses raised the standard. What was on the standard? See? And so what did the people have to do to be healed from the bite of the serpents? Simply look. Look up. It's all they had to do. And most of them wouldn't even do that. Why? I don't know. Must be a hard-headed bunch of folks. But this is the same concept we got going on here. All you have to do under this system right here is to accept the prepayment. That's all you have to do. All you got to do is look up. And it's done. See? And so we still got hard-headed folks running around here. Maybe some of y'all are hard-headed, I don't know. But all you got to do is look up. All you got to do is accept the prepayment to make the system work. And so in 1999, when the bankruptcy when the bankruptcy situation's over with, then people had the remedy of acceptance. All you got to do is accept it, because there was a prepayment. Now, where did the prepayment come from? The account that was set up based on your life's labor, and the bond on it is the birth certificate. All right. Now, this gives the opportunity for set-off. Now, if you look in your book, what book was that in? Hebrews, that we were studying? Where it talked about the Melchizedek priest. Over this side right here, you got the Levitical priest with no bond. And over here, you got the Melchizedek, however you spell it. I've seen it spelled so many ways, I can't remember. But this is bonded, because the Melchizedek priest is made with an oath. And you see the same thing when you go down to the courthouse. You go to the courthouse and talk to a magistrate. Magistrate got a bond? He's Levitical. The judge got a bond? Yeah, a judge has a bond. Not an administrator. I'm not talking about the administrator down there. I'm talking about a judge. The judge has a bond, so he swore an oath. A magistrate simply operates on the bond of the judge. So you see this exact same setup down at the courthouse. And so then you got this situation over here is involved with set-off. Now, the reason why you can do a set-off is because somebody has accumulated or created something of value which can be set off against. You can't do a set-off if there's nothing there. And in this system over here, there wasn't anything there yet. It was totally dependent on a future event. All right? But the event happened. The account was created. Therefore, the participants in this system can do set-off. They don't need to do discharge anymore. Now, in the system of government and commerce we have right now, you can still do either one, I think. But I personally prefer to do set-off and not discharge. Why put the thing off into the future when you can settle the thing right now and get it over with? Now, when we get to that point, I'm going to show you how to establish a set-off account through a securities intermediary so that you can do this thing.